Welcome to the pinnacle of BMW electric cars, the BMW iX. There's no number in that name because the company wants it to be designated the Halo model for its range of battery vehicles and, naturally, it's a large, super plush SUV with long-range options. At the moment, the top spec iX is the xDrive 50 and that gets a range of 380 miles. It will do 0 to 62 in well under 5 seconds despite being of roughly planetary dimensions, and it costs from around about £116,000. However, this is the xDrive 40, which is the more moderate model. BMW reckons it's going to account for around about 70% of sales in the UK. It will do 257 miles to a charge, courtesy of its 71 kilowatt hour battery, and it costs from a still quite pricey, but more modest £76,000. Now, those looks can be a bit deceptive. Often you're so hypnotised by the enormity of that grille that the real size of the car is easy to miss, but for some context the iX is only 15mm longer than the X5 despite having a 25mm longer wheelbase. But it is actually 37mm narrower and 53mm lower. In fact, that roof really is quite low by SUV standards. It's just really different, and that's what I like about it. Yes, it's clearly divisive, and I didn't really like it when it was launched at all actually, but I've got used to it, and seeing it in the flesh, I just like the fact that it is so different. It might be one of those BMW designs that is so divisive that it actually ends up aging really well. It just kind of seems really futuristic and very cool. And of course, it's also very clever. You've got the frameless doors here, which are very nice, and BMW has gone to some length to save weight. You can see all this carbon fibre here, exposed carbon fibre, which looks really cool. This is a modified version of the BMW X5 platform, but it's got this carbon fibre cage sort of sat on top, so that's all very clever. Having said that, this car still weighs like 2.5 tonnes, so it's not like it's that lightweight. And let's not forget the grille, the thing that has already basically broken the internet with people commenting on it. Do you know what? Yeah, I'll give you that. The grille really is quite odd. That definitely is going to take some getting used to, but maybe that's going to grow on us as well. Anyway, before we have a look inside, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel, and turn your notifications on, of course, so that you don't miss any of our videos. Having the dual electric motors and the car's axles mounted at the extremes of this platform means that you get lots more space in the iX than you do in other comparable sized SUVs. So leg and headroom are no issue at all, although you might expect more foot space, and there's no 7-seat option either. Still, to say it's comfy back there is an understatement. The 500-litre boot is more than enough for most families, but it is a bit disappointing by the standards of rivals like the Audi e-tron, never mind the roomier and more versatile Tesla Model X. Even the BMW X5 actually has a significantly bigger boot space. If boot space is a bit disappointing, well, the dashboard certainly isn't. This is pretty radical in here as well, it must be said. Starting with a hexagonal wheel. Now, I haven't driven the iX that much yet. All I've done is manoeuvre it around and that felt fine, but I have to say it is a bit peculiar. The theory, I think, is that it means that you can't confuse whether it's straight ahead or not. Nonetheless, we'll see what that's like out on the road. It looks kind of cool, doesn't it, I have to say. This screen looks fantastic. In the scheme of big screens that have been tacked onto a dashboard, I think this one looks really kind of architectural and lovely. It's a beautiful sort of single-piece curved screen. The screen doesn't respond as quickly, actually, as I would like it to. But apart from that, it does seem to be fairly easy to use. So you've got a home button on the screen, you've also got these shortcut buttons and the rotary controller down here, and that helps you to sort of navigate it all. It's got your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto and all of that. And I like the fact that it's very gently sort of facing towards the driver. It feels very swish, very lovely. It's even got electric door releases here, so there's no kind of big door handles. Although it has got the climate control in the touchscreen, which is a bit of a pet hate of mine. It doesn't disappear when you change your function and stuff, so I don't mind that too much, and it is quite nice and responsive, that bit, so that's okay. I even quite like the sort of slightly over the top crystal finish on the rotary dial and the seats here. This is optional though, that finish. But it just looks lovely, doesn't it? And it actually works really well. Go for the more modest BMW iX40 model and you get 150 kilowatt charging speeds, which will still get you a 100-mile top-up in around about 10 to 15 minutes. Go for the top spec 50 and that charging speed is up to 200 kilowatts, which means you're going to get an even faster 100-mile top-up of well under 10 minutes. Plug into a 350 kilowatt ultra-rapid charger via the car's CCS port and you'll have an 80% battery in around about 20 minutes. Plug into a 7 kilowatt home wall box and you'll have a full battery in some 16 hours in the big battery model, or the smaller battery iX will take more like 11 hours. BMW is aiming to offer something of the BMW X5's handling with this car, but with the BMW X7's sort of ride comfort and sense of general, overindulgence, I think. And they're not far off, Our 40 test car is on 22-inch wheels, so they're optional wheels, and I'm not sure that that's doing it that many favours, but even with those wheels on it, it still rides really quite beautifully. Quite neat body control actually for a car of this size. It does lean, of course it does, but it still feels quite sort of tucks into corners nicely. There really is a really lovely balance of riding and handling in this car. In electric cars, I think they're quite prone to, you hear the suspension more because there's so little engine noise, of course, and actually there's not even any motor whine in this car. The refinement generally is really lovely. The steering is surprisingly quick. It's quite darty feeling. I think partly it's because obviously with this steering wheel, I think BMW is trying to make it so that you don't often have to sort of let the steering wheel twirl through your hands. Loads of grip. I don't know that steering isn't a little bit too fast in some respects. You get quite a bit of kickback sometimes over from the road surface, actually causing the steering wheel to sort of move a little bit in your hands. I quite like that. That actually makes it feel a slightly more tactile, kind of more involving drive than you might expect. Brake regen is adaptive, so you can have it in an auto setting and it judges when there's a junction up ahead or another car, and it automatically increases the braking, which in turn improves the efficiency on the car as well. There's 3 different modes, but it's easy just to leave it in adaptive. We haven't spent that much time in the iX today. It was showing us a range of 180 miles just over with 100% charge when we got into it, and that was when it was like just over freezing this morning. I think that's probably quite realistic looking at the sort of efficiency we're getting from it. Our brief test drive in the iX wasn't really enough to get a very accurate gauge of real-world range in different situations, but in cold weather and in fairly fast use you can expect to see around about 180 miles to a charge. In summer temperatures and in slower use, we'd expect to see this car get close to its claimed range, since the efficiency does seem to be fairly good for such a big, high-performance SUV. If you do stick it in sport mode, so you have got your sport modes down here, you get your Hans Zimmer style audio going on, sort of quite ghostly accompaniment to your drive, which I quite like. It's kind of a bit of fun, isn't it? I really like the fact that this system, going back to the 8th gen iDrive, if you choose your different modes, then the screen defaults to just a really nice background picture, so it becomes more of a kind of art installation rather than a touchscreen system. I think it's quite smart. I would add that this system is all about personalisation, so you can change your pictures, you can change all of those shortcuts on your home menu, all of this stuff. It's one of the things about it that is good, but blimey, you need to live with the car for a while to get used to it and to, figure out how all the menus work in that respect. It does take some getting used to. The I-Pace is the more fun option. It's got to be said as well, Model X is more practical and you get used to the superchargers. It is a bit pricey, especially next to BMW's own iX3, which, let's face it, actually does quite a similar job, doesn't it? In many respects, and for a lot less cash. I can see why you might go for one of the many other options that are out there for the price that the iX is asking. The BMW iX is hard to justify by any objective measure. There are other cars that do similar jobs for a lot less cash, and there are other cars that go further to a charge. But given the design of this car, the interior lustre and the way it drives, it does feel like it is pushing the envelope in terms of the design of electric cars, and it just feels like one of those models that's right at the vanguard of us transitioning to battery vehicles. It is very much a want-one car, and it is a fantastic car to spend time in and to drive. And if that is what you're after, then the BMW iX promises to be one of the classiest electric cars out there. Head to cargurus.co.uk for a whole host of fantastic used cars, electric or otherwise, and we will even tell you if it's a good deal or not.